Hey guys, welcome back to Grow Like a CEO, your resource for getting that much closer to a CEO reading level. Now, the average CEO reads about a book a week. That's 52 books a year. I'm not going to get you that close, but I'm going to get you a little bit closer to that process by breaking down books out of my own library every single week and putting them in terms that you can actually implement that day. That's going to be my goal for you, is give you something you can implement on. So every week, I'm going to be breaking down books out of my own library. I got Iron Man back here hanging on to some of my favorites. All right? And we're going to be breaking those down in terms of what you can use in your own business. Now, last week, we started in a new book. We're looking at Blue Ocean Strategy. For those of you starting a business, revamping an old business, looking for a space to create a side hustle out of, this is your book. This is where you need to start. It is all about creating your own uncontested market space. All right? No longer trying to be the best out of all these big name competitors, especially if you're just getting started in a new business. Trying to compete with all the Goliaths out there when you're David is tough to do. This is the book you can use to break down your market, break down your business, and really get a better understanding across the board of how you can create your own space in the market. All right, so that's what we're going to be breaking down today, or pardon me, for the next month. That's what we're going to be breaking down is Blue Ocean Strategy. So this is welcome to episode 2 of Blue Ocean Strategy and Grow Like a CEO. So I'm going to put this guy back here. So hopefully you can stand up and won't fall down in the middle of this. All right, so what we're looking at today, all right, is concentrating on the big picture. Now, this is tough to do, especially if you're a very type A person. I get bogged down in the minutia all the time. It's very easy to see so much detail out there, all right, and get stuck in that rut and just get stuck in that and can't get yourself out of it. What this allows you to do, or what we're looking at today, is taking everything from last week, those 6 steps that I gave you last week, and using those, looking across your market, looking across your product, and taking a much higher level view so you can figure out what you need to change, what you need to get rid of, what you need to add, what you need to do to your product to make it or to build your own blue ocean strategy. All right, so we were talking about building a strategy canvas. And for those of you who are relatively familiar with it, there's something called a business canvas. These are 2 different objects here. Your business canvas outlines your product offering, your pricing, your partnerships, your distribution. It takes into account all the facets of your business. And that's where it's easy for people like me and any type A folks out there to get bogged down. A strategy canvas, on the other hand, really takes that 30,000 foot view and looks down over your market as a whole and says, and classifies it in terms of high and low. What do you do well? What do you suck at? Do your prices high or your prices low in your market? What's your time? Is it a simple to use process or difficult to use process? It takes a look at these different factors across you and your supposed competitors at this point and classifies them in terms of high and low and creates what we're going to call a value curve. And that value curve is what we're looking to change. That's where it gets important for building a blue ocean, is being able to manipulate that value curve. All right, so like I said, we're ranking terms high and low, and we're looking for broad terms against our competitors in our market. What's important in the market, what's not important, what sucks about this product, what's awesome about this product. So if you haven't seen last week's video, go watch it. It's a little bit long, I know. There's a lot of info in there, but it's the 6 different ways that you can actually look across your market are going to come into play right now. And once we use those different terms to start to build this strategy canvas of ours, what we're going to be looking for are 3 distinct things. And this is when you have all 3, right, you know that you've got a good concept here. We're looking for focus, we're looking for divergence, and we're looking for a compelling tagline. Now, the compelling tagline, that should certainly be the last one. That compelling tagline should be generated from your focus and from your divergence. And when I say divergence, you remember I talked about that value curve. I think back to all those high school math classes that most of us tried to sleep through. So when we look across these strategy canvases, we're looking for a change in the curve from us versus our competitors. That's going to represent our change in the market itself. All right, so if your competitors have a high price and you have a low price, that's a change in your strategy canvas. That's a change in your value curve. All right, so little things like that. We'll focus on those a little bit later on as you build this out. But we're looking at 4 different things. I'm going to have your action items as we go. All right, 4 different things that you can use, or 4 different steps you can take to actually get to this point. And especially if, I don't care if you have a one-man shop or you've got a bunch of people in an organization, this will work equally well as long as you put it into practice. All right, so step number one, we're going to talk about visual awakening. This sounds a little hippy-dippy for a business type book here, but the goal of being visual here is getting to know that strategy canvas. All right, and you can look this up, and I'll include a link on Google that will show you kind of how you can plot out different map points depending upon your business. When we talk about visual awakening, we're talking about building the strategy canvas out that we can see it right in front of us, and we can say, in terms of high and low, this is where we rank in our market versus our competitors, versus ourselves for that matter. And the goal of this first step is to take a genuine look at your business. All right, don't look at what your business should be, look at what it actually is. All right, look at the day-to-day operations, look at the processes you use, the pricing in your market, and separate opinion from fact. All right, this is your opportunity to take a hard-nosed look at your own business and say, this is what we're awesome at, this is what we suck at. And then look at your market as a whole and say, okay, is what we suck at the most important thing in our business, or important thing in our market? If it is, you've got a genuine problem. If it's not, chance to go to something you can get away from. All right, but you want to understand where your business stands, not just where your business stands, but where your market stands, what it demands out of that product, that service, out of that brand. All right, so keep in mind when you look at plotting these different data points versus high and low, look at your pricing, look at the time it takes to create your product, the features that are available. All right, if you're looking at things like an airline business, you would look at, of course, the pricing, the ease of booking, the additional fees for things like baggage storage, right, the number of destinations you can get to, number of flights per day, high and low. You're looking at rating each of these different data points in high and low, and that's going to start your first step off. That's your visual awakening, is getting a good hard-nosed look at your business and a good hard-nosed look at your market and seeing where those coincide. All right, so step number two is we're going to look at visual exploration. All right, so if you haven't already, I already recommend it. Go back, watch last week's video, and write down those 6 steps or those 6 paths to a blue ocean. All right, it's going to teach you how to look across your market and figure out how you can differentiate your offering, how you can approach the market, how you can approach the business a little bit differently. And more times than not, one of the best things you can look for, all right, is alternative products and services, and we'll talk about that here. All right, this is where it's going to come into play, because what I want you to do is go under each one of these different, these 6 paths and write some of this content down. I want you to have a good list going and write down the advantages, especially of these alternative products and services. Get an understanding of why people purchase this product versus that one. All right, and they may seem, especially if you don't feel they're strongly related, I still want you to keep them in there, because if they serve the same purpose, they serve the same goal. And remember, one of my examples from there was looking at QuickBooks versus an actual CPA. These two products are entirely different form and function, but they serve the same goal. It's all about your taxes. So don't be afraid to include a product or service in there that you feel, or pardon me, that might not be directly related to your brand. All right, it might have a different form, might have a different function, but if it serves the same purpose, I want you to keep that in there. All right, now you can start to take a look and see what factors that you can eliminate, what factors work well, and what factors need to just be parsed down a little bit. Because we're going to be looking at these 3 different things as you start to take into account all these different alternative products and services. All right, because you want a better understanding, not just of your competition, but of your users. You want to understand exactly what's the most important feature to them in that entire process. All right, step 3, for those of you with a larger organization, you can have a lot of fun with this. You can stand to have some lively debate within your company. All right, this is called Visual Strategy Fair, and it sounds a little hokey, and it is. All right, but ideally, especially I'm going to focus on you larger organizations, you can pit different regions against one another. All right, now most organizations like to think that they have a good, solid strategy, and everybody in their business has bought into it. This is going to help you point out the gaps that are in there, right? The gaps in this process, because this is going to show you what people from Washington think is important about your business versus the people from New York, right? Washington State, not DC. All right, so get an understanding with each of these and have each of these different regions to draw out their own strategy canvas. What do they see in the business that's actually taking place? This is the as-is strategy canvas, because we want to be able to compete with these 2 different areas. We want to see what one region comes up with versus the other. Now, if you're a one-man shop, this is going to be a little bit easier for you. All right, but both of these, I don't care, like I said, if you're a one-man shop or you're a disjointed company, you've got a lot of different groups running around out there. Everybody has the same process here, and they need to go out and gather feedback. All right, talk to their customers, talk to their competitors if they can, and if you find a niche in there that you can talk to non-customers as well. Get some idea of expectations about your market. Talk to everybody out there. Use this as a chance to gather information about how your customers find you or have found doing business with you. Talk to the customers that left. Figure out what their complaints were, what caused them to leave. Talk to your competitors if you know some people out there in the market, and use that intel to the best of your ability. All right, I don't generally like to add talking to outright strangers of the process if they're not involved in your market at all, but it's usually good information to gather as well. All right, it can add a little bit extra data to it, but it's going to show you what the uninitiated person thinks about your market. It's going to show you exactly what they have to think about your market, and that can show you what obstacles you have to overcome to gain a client like that person. The goal is to compile all this feedback, though, and look for the overlaps. Look for the staggering gaps if you've got a lot of different people working in your business. All right, and look for the overlaps from customers, from competitors, from lost customers and non-customers. Figure out what the most important features are and where you stand in the process. And we're going to look at a grid here coming up after this next step that's going to help you with this strategy fair. All right, and the last step, this is where everything starts to come together. This is visual communication. It's the name of the last step, and we're talking about putting together, taking all these different strategy canvases that have been built. All right, once we've combined all this different information where everybody's gone out and surveyed these different people, all right, we want to combine these together, put each on a single page so you can look at them side by side, and you can say, this one doesn't compete in our market because the price is too high or the sales cycle is too long. This one does compete in our market because it's just right. And again, we're looking for that kind of divergence between our competitive market and our own product. All right, and the goal here is really supporting only the projects and operational moves that support the goals of the canvas that you settle on. All right, you wouldn't think you would have to say that, but ideally, all right, change is tough. Change is difficult to be able to pull off, especially in a larger organization. It may require layoffs. It may require some big operational shifts. All right, but the goal is to make sure that you understand everything that needs to take place to achieve this new blue ocean, because it's going to require different operational processes. It may require an entirely different business strategy altogether to pull this off. All right, and that's your goal, is to be able to sit down and see it in front of yourself, all right, versus what's already out there, and say, these are the hard decisions I have to make. All right, so put those down on a single sheet of paper, one next to the other, and see how they stack up. It's going to show you what changes that you need to be making in the process. All right, so going back to gathering all that data, all right, there's a grid that I want you guys to be able to put together. It's called an ERRC grid. And this: eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. All right, we'll go through each of these. All right, so the first one, to eliminate. All right, what I want you to look for features that your users don't care about. All right, better yet, look for features that your users hate. Those are the two best places that you can look to begin to eliminate products, services, or features of your business. And this is where you start to differentiate your offering here. All right. Ineffective links in your operational chain. Again, if you're a large organization, look for those ineffective links and figure out what you can do to get rid of those links if humanly possible. All right, the next one in ERRC grids is reduce. All right, for those products in there or services that you can't completely eliminate but aren't necessarily that important to your users, all right, reduce those as much as you can. If you've got semi-popular features or not really popular features, but they're still necessary to the core of the business, reduce them as much as you can. Take them out of that operational chain. Now, what you're going to find in here, especially on the reduce side, when you look at operational practices, this can be your chance here to create an entirely new ERRC grid just for that operational practice and see what you have to do to make that work better. All right, the goal here is optimization. It's the best word you can use, is optimizing the process in general. You're just looking for the best way to create a smooth process for something that's actually necessary for your brand and for your market. All right, and that necessary part is the thing that you got to concentrate on. All right, number 3 is raise, and this goes the opposite direction. Look at the products or services, the important features and processes that are critical to the business and important to the users, and figure out what you need to do to raise those up, to take those up a notch. Do you have to dedicate more people to a department? Create more bandwidth on your web page, speed up your web page in general, create your own mobile app. What are the most important features that you can add into that process? All right, and the last one is create. All right, and this is where it gets tough. This is where those hard-nosed decisions come into play, because this is when you have to actually create something new for your product, this for your brand or your service. This is where you have to create something that doesn't exist. All right, so like I said, this can be tough to do. This can cost money. It can cost time, energy, sweat, all of this. It can be really tough to create something new, but if you're creating it based on the value that based on the needs of your users, it will be something valuable to your company. All right, so that actually covers our section 2 of Blue Ocean strategy here. If you haven't, like I said, if you haven't checked it out, go through last week's video first, episode 1 of Blue Ocean strategy, and knock out those first 6 paths to a blue ocean. I want you to have a good understanding of how you can approach your market and what that means in the process of creating your own market space. All right, so I've got your action items listed below in the comments here. Hit that subscribe button for me as well. All right, this is going to be your chance here. I will post one of these every week for you. My goal, like I said, is to break down some of my favorite books in the library and books that are necessary or useful for you in business, marketing, social media, productivity, you name it. My goal is to give you the tools that you need to implement everything that's in these books without spending hours out of your day with your nose stuck in them. All right, this is to save you the process of going through buying the book, reading the book, and trying to implement everything. I'm going to give you the action items every single week here on this channel. All right, so stick around. 2 more episodes coming for Blue Ocean strategy that you can use to implement on your business, your new venture, your old venture, or your side hustle. This is the book for you. So I will see you guys next week.